Picture this. Two gardeners, same street, same climate, same packet of seeds. One waters every morning, fertilizes every 2 weeks, fusses over every yellowing leaf. The other plants the seeds, walks away, and barely looks at them again until harvest. Now imagine you tasted a leaf from each garden. The neglected plant would absolutely demolish the pampered one. Stronger aroma, deeper flavor, more essential oil packed into every leaf. This isn't a fluke, it's biology. There's an entire category of herbs that evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides, in baking deserts, in soil so poor most plants would give up. And when you treat them like fragile lettuce, you're actively destroying the very compounds that make them taste like anything at all. Today I'm walking you through 10 heat-loving herbs that genuinely get tastier the worse you treat them. Less water, worse soil, more sun, more heat, the works. And number 1 on this list is a herb that produces so much essential oil under stress, professional perfumers actually pay more for the drought-grown version. Stick around because these last 3 completely changed how I think about flavor. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 10, we have oregano, the pizza herb, the pasta herb, the herb every gardener thinks they've grown, until they taste oregano that's actually been stressed properly. Most store-bought oregano tastes like green dust. There's a reason for that. Oregano belongs to the genus Oreganum, native to the rocky slopes of Greece, Turkey, and the Mediterranean. In its homeland, it grows out of cracks in limestone, with almost no soil and almost no rain. That harsh environment is what triggers it to produce carvacrol and thymol, the 2 phenolic compounds responsible for that warm, peppery, almost medicinal punch. Research from the University of Thessaloniki has shown that oregano grown under drought stress can contain up to 3 times more essential oil than the same plant grown with regular irrigation. So, here's how you grow it right. Use the worst draining spot you have, mix in some sand or fine gravel, and plant it in full sun, at least 6 to 8 hours a day. Greek oregano, Oreganum vulgar hirtum, is the variety you want for flavor. Italian oregano is milder, and Cuban oregano isn't even true oregano. Space plants 12 inches apart. After it's established, water only when the leaves start to wilt slightly. That mild stress is what concentrates the oils. Hardy in zones 5 through 10, and a single plant will give you a usable harvest for 5 to 7 years. Pinch back flower buds as they form to keep leaf production strong, but let 1 or 2 flower at the end of summer for the bees. Now if you think oregano is bold, wait until you meet the next one, because this one was used to embalm pharaohs. At number 9 is thyme, a small, woody, unassuming herb that has been documented in Egyptian tombs as an embalming agent, used by the Greeks in temple incense, and burned by Roman soldiers before battle to give them courage. The active compound, thymol, is so antimicrobial it's still listed as an active ingredient in mouthwash today. And here's the kicker. The more you neglect thyme, the more thymol it produces. Studies from the University of Murcia in Spain found that water-stressed thyme plants produced essential oil concentrations up to 60% higher than well-watered plants. Thyme wants exactly what you'd expect from a Mediterranean native. Full sun, alkaline soil with a pH between 6.5 and 8.0, and drainage so sharp the water practically falls through it. If your soil holds water like a sponge, thyme will rot at the crown within 1 season. Plant it 8 to 12 inches apart, hardy in zones 4 through 9. English thyme, Thymus vulgaris, is the workhorse for cooking. Lemon thyme has a gorgeous citrus undertone. Creeping thyme is for paths and cracks between stones. Once established, water deeply but rarely. Once every 2 to 3 weeks in summer is plenty. Fertilizer is your enemy here. Rich soil makes leggy, weak, flavorless thyme. Trim plants by 1/3 each spring to keep them from getting woody at the base. And know this, Thyme that's been grown lean and dry will outperform supermarket thyme by a margin so wide you'll wonder why you ever bought the dried stuff. Speaking of woody Mediterranean herbs, the next one literally means dew of the sea. Number 8 is rosemary. Rosmarinus officinalis, now reclassified as Salvia rosmarinus, gets its name from the Latin for dew of the sea because it grows wild on the limestone cliffs of the Mediterranean coast, where the only moisture some plants ever see is the salt spray that drifts in from the waves. This is a plant that genuinely thrives on neglect. Research from the University of Reading has shown that rosemary grown in low water, low nutrient conditions produces significantly higher levels of rosmarinic acid and 1,8 cineol, the compounds responsible for its distinctive piney, almost camphorous flavor. Plant rosemary in full sun, in soil amended with sand or gravel for drainage. The pH sweet spot is 6.0 to 7.5. Space plants 24 to 36 inches apart because a happy rosemary plant becomes a small shrub, 3 to 5 feet tall and just as wide. Hardy in zones 7 through 10 in the ground. In colder zones, grow it in a pot and bring it indoors before the first hard freeze. Tuscan Blue and Arp are two reliable cultivars, with Arp being the most cold hardy down to zone 6 with protection. Here's where most people kill rosemary: overwatering. Rosemary roots need oxygen and waterlogged soil suffocates them. Water deeply, then let the soil dry out completely before the next drink. In winter, water maybe once a month if it's indoors. The leaves should look slightly stiff, never droopy. If you see drooping, you've already overwatered. Harvest by snipping the soft new growth at the tips. Never cut into the woody base, because rosemary doesn't reliably resprout from old wood. Now, if rosemary is the cliff dweller, the next herb is the desert survivor. At number 7, we have sage. Salvia officinalis, the herb that gives roast turkey its soul. Sage is native to the rocky, sun-baked Balkans, where summers are brutal and winters are cold. That harsh range is exactly why sage is one of the most resilient culinary herbs you can grow, and why it tastes infinitely better when you stop coddling it. The dominant flavor compound, thujone plus camphor and 1,8 cineol, all increase under heat and drought stress. Studies from Iowa State University Extension have noted that sage grown in lean, well-drained soil with limited irrigation develops noticeably stronger aromatic profiles. Plant sage in full sun, in soil with a pH between 6.0 and 7.0, with sharp drainage. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. Hardy in zones 4 through 10 depending on variety. Common garden sage will give you the classic flavor. Berggarten is a non-flowering cultivar that puts all its energy into broad, soft leaves. Purple sage and tricolor sage are beautiful, but slightly less hardy. Once established, sage barely needs anything from you. Water only during extended drought. Avoid fertilizing. It just produces watery, mild leaves. Cut the plant back by 1/3 every spring to prevent it from getting leggy and woody. After about 4 to 5 years, sage plants get tired and the center dies out. Take cuttings in late spring, root them in sand, and you've got replacements for free. The next herb on our list is so tough it's been cultivated continuously for over 4,000 years. Number 6 is lavender. Lavandula angustifolia, true English lavender, despite the name, is actually native to the Western Mediterranean. And it's the perfect example of how stress equals scent. Commercial lavender essential oil producers in Provence have known for generations that the best oil comes from plants grown on dry, rocky, calcareous slopes, not from irrigated fields. Research from INRAE in France has shown that drought-stressed lavender produces up to 40% more linalool and linaloyl acetate, the two compounds that give lavender its sweet, floral, almost narcotic aroma. Plant lavender in full sun, in alkaline soil, with a pH of 6.7 to 7.5, with extreme drainage, gravel, sand, or raised beds work beautifully. Space plants 24 to 36 inches apart. Hardy in zones 5 through 9. Munstead and Hidcote are the two most reliable English lavenders for cooking and eating. Grosso is a hybrid with massive flower production but slightly more camphor in the flavor, better for crafts than cooking. Water deeply at planting, then let the plant fend for itself once established. Never mulch lavender with bark or compost. It traps moisture against the crown and rots the plant. Use white gravel or coarse sand instead, which also reflects heat and light back up into the plant. Prune by a third right after the flowers fade, never into old wood. Lavender plants should last 7 to 10 years if you stop trying to help them so much. Now, if you think lavender is intense, the next herb is what bees travel miles for. At number 5 is Summer Savory. Saturasia hortensis, the forgotten herb of the European peasant kitchen. Sometimes called the bean herb because it pairs perfectly with green beans, Summer Savory has a sharp, peppery, almost thyme meets mint flavor. The active compound is carvacrol, the same one in oregano, and like its cousin, it surges under heat and drought. Research from agricultural universities in Iran, where savory is widely cultivated, has shown that water deficit conditions can nearly double essential oil yield in summer savory. Plant summer savory from seed directly in the garden after your last frost, in full sun, in average to poor soil with good drainage. Soil pH should be 6.0 to 7.0, thin seedlings to 6 to 8 inches apart. This is an annual that grows quickly to about 12 to 18 inches tall. Winter savory, Saturaja montana, is the perennial cousin, hardy in zones 5 through 8, with a stronger and more bitter flavor profile. Water only during prolonged dry spells. Skip the fertilizer entirely. Pinch the tips when the plant is about 6 inches tall to encourage branching. Harvest just as the flower buds form, because that's when essential oil content peaks. Cut the entire plant a few inches above the soil and hang it to dry. Savory dries beautifully and keeps its punch for over a year. The next one is so heat tolerant it's grown commercially in places where almost nothing else survives the summer. Number 4 is Greek mountain tea, or Sideritis. This one most American gardeners have never heard of, but it has been used for over 2,000 years in the mountains of Greece, where shepherds brewed it as a daily tonic. The plant grows wild at elevations above 3,000 feet on rocky, exposed slopes with thin soil and brutal sun. Modern studies, including research published by the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, have examined its compounds and found significant antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity. It's been used in traditional Greek medicine for centuries, though I'd frame it simply as a fascinating herbal tea with a long history. To grow Sideritis, you need to mimic its mountain home. Full, blasting sun. Sandy or gravelly soil with a pH around 6.5 to 7.5. Drainage so good water disappears in seconds. Space plants 12 to 18 inches apart. Hardy in zones 7 through 10, though it can be grown as an annual or potted plant in cooler areas. Sideritis syriaca and Sideritis scartica are the two most common species in cultivation. Water sparingly. The plant evolved with maybe 12 inches of annual rainfall, much of it as snowmelt. Overwatering is the only reliable way to kill it. Harvest the flowering stems in mid to late summer when the small yellow flowers are fully open. The entire stem, flowers and all, is what you dry for tea. A handful steeped for 10 minutes makes a cup with notes of citrus, sage, and honey. Now we're getting to the herbs that completely changed my garden. At number 3 is hyssop, Hyssopus officinalis. An herb mentioned in the Bible, used by ancient Egyptians for cleansing rituals, and grown in monastic gardens across medieval Europe for its supposed cleansing properties. The flavor is unique, somewhere between mint, anise, and a sharp menthol bite. The active compound, pinocamphone, plus 1,8 cineole and beta-pinene all concentrate in dry, rocky, sun-baked conditions. Hyssop in rich garden soil tastes flat. Hyssop on a south-facing slope with gravel mulch tastes alive. Plant hyssop in full sun, in poor to average soil with a pH of 6.00 to 7.5. Space plants 12 to 18 inches apart. Hardy in zones 4 through 9. The plant grows about 18 to 24 inches tall and produces gorgeous spikes of blue, pink, or white flowers that pollinators absolutely cannot resist. A single hyssop plant in flower will draw bees from a quarter-mile radius. Once established, water only during severe drought. No fertilizer. Cut the plant back by half in early spring to keep it bushy and prevent woodiness. Harvest the leaves anytime, but the peak flavor comes just before flowering. Hyssop is a perennial that lasts 5 to 7 years before it starts to decline, at which point you simply take cuttings or let it self-seed. Speaking of self-seeders, the next herb might be the most generous on this list. Coming in at number 2 is Za'atar, specifically Origanum syriacum, or Syrian Oregano. This is the actual herb behind the famous Middle Eastern spice blend, not the supermarket mix. It's a relative of common oregano, but with a flavor that's deeper, more complex, with notes of thyme, marjoram, and oregano all rolled into one leaf. It evolved on the limestone hillsides of Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, and like every herb on this list, it concentrates its essential oils, primarily carvacrol and thymol, under hot, dry, lean conditions. Plant Za'atar in full sun in well-drained alkaline soil with a pH of 6.5 to 7.5. Space plants 18 inches apart. Hardy in zones 7 through 10, but easily grown as a potted plant in colder climates and brought indoors for winter. The plant grows about 24 to 36 inches tall and gets woody at the base over time, like a small shrub. Water deeply at planting, then back off completely. This plant truly thrives on neglect. Never fertilize it. Harvest leaves throughout the growing season. The flavor peaks in midsummer when temperatures are highest. To make traditional Za'atar spice blend, dry the leaves, then grind with sumac, sesame seeds, and salt in a roughly 4:1:1 ratio by volume. Store in an airtight jar away from light, and you've got something that costs $30 a pound at specialty stores for free. And now, the number 1 herb on this list, the plant that perfumers actually pay extra for when it's grown under stress. Number 1 is French Tarragon, Artemisia dracunculus var. Sativa. Now this one breaks the rules slightly because tarragon does want a bit more moisture than the others. But the flavor compound, estragol, plus a trace of anethole, both surge dramatically when the plant is grown lean. Tarragon is the soul of French cuisine. It's the herb in béarnaise sauce. It's what makes a roast chicken taste like a Parisian bistro. And here's what most people don't know. The supermarket version is almost always Russian tarragon, Artemisia dracunculoides, which is a completely different plant with almost no flavor. True French tarragon does not produce viable seed. If a seed packet says tarragon, it's Russian. You must buy a plant from a nursery that specializes in culinary herbs, or take a cutting from a known French tarragon. Plant in full sun to part afternoon shade in hot climates, in well-drained soil with a pH of 6.5 to 7.5. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart, hardy in zones 4 through 8. Here's the trick. Tarragon needs a winter dormancy period to come back strong each spring. In zones warmer than 8, the plant struggles long-term. Water moderately during the growing season, but never let the soil stay wet. Don't fertilize. Harvest leaves throughout summer, but the peak anise meets licorice flavor comes from leaves picked in the morning, just after the dew evaporates, in mid to late summer. Cut the plant back to 2 inches above the soil after the first hard freeze. Divide the clumps every 3 to 4 years to keep them vigorous. Before we wrap up, Here's the principle that ties all 10 of these together. It's called the Secondary Metabolite Response. When a plant is comfortable, well-fed, well-watered, no stress, it spends its energy on growth. Big leaves, lots of green tissue, fast expansion. But when a plant is stressed, drought, heat, lean soil, it shifts into defense mode. It produces compounds called secondary metabolites, essential oils, alkaloids, terpenes, phenolics. These are the chemicals plants evolved to deter insects, fight off fungal infections, and survive predators. They are also exactly the compounds we humans perceive as flavor and aroma. Research from multiple agricultural universities, including studies summarized by Utah State University Extension, consistently shows the same pattern across Mediterranean herbs. More stress equals more flavor. So when you see a gardener watering their thyme every day and fertilizing it with rich compost, what they're actually doing is producing the most flavorless thyme possible. The neglect isn't laziness, it's strategy. It's how these plants evolved to be eaten. So let's do a quick recap of our 10 heat-loving herbs that get tastier the more you neglect them. Number 10, oregano. Drought stress triples the carvacrol content. Number 9, thyme. Water it less, and the thymol concentration jumps by more than half. Number 8, rosemary. The cliff dweller that genuinely wants to be ignored. Number 7, sage. Balkan-tough. Hates fertilizer, lasts decades. Number 6, lavender. Provence-grade oil only happens on rocky slopes. Number 5, Summer Savory. Annual, peppery, doubles its oil content under drought. Number 4, Greek mountain tea. Sideritis. 2,000 years of mountain wisdom. Number 3, hyssop. Biblical herb, unmatched bee magnet. Hates rich soil. Number 2, Za'atar. True Syrian oregano, the actual flavor behind the famous spice blend. And number 1, French Tarragon, the divisive king of French cuisine, only grown from cuttings, never from seed. Every one of these plants will reward you for doing less, not more. When you stop fighting these plants and start understanding where they came from, your whole garden changes. You stop watering on schedule and start watering by feel. You stop reaching for the fertilizer bag and start reaching for the gravel bucket. You stop apologizing to your plants for the heat wave and start thanking the sun for doing your job for you. These herbs were never asking for your help. They were asking for your trust. And once you give it to them, they'll give you flavor that no supermarket, no spice rack, no specialty store can match. That's not a trick. That's just what happens when a plant gets to be the plant it evolved to be.